Fantastic. Welcome, 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 everybody, to the next iteration of the Inside Hustle interview series. And this is where we move beyond the mind and we move into the truth of who we are. We get into multidimensionality, ourselves as cosmic beings here on this planet, transformation, change, all of the, natural parts of the stuff that we progress on as we go through this journey of life as a being in form. And so, my very, very special guest today is my friend Ginny. And Ginny Jones is she's a healer. She works in transformation. She takes people on spiritual journeys. She has an amazing gong. I've got an amazing gong. Ginny's got an amazing gong. And I've um, had the ability to have a beautiful experience with that. Most recently, a couple of months ago, I think it was. And, Ginny is in the space of being a spiritual healer, a cosmic leader, really. She works deeply with the Arcturians, our galactic friends and family. And over the past 17 years, she has experienced a lot of profound contact with all different kinds of cosmic beings. They've taught her things, she's received guidance and healing, and now her work focuses on helping others achieve higher states of consciousness. So welcome, Ginny, onto the show today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah. And so I guess there might be some people out there who don't really know much about these galactic beings that you and I actually work with. So do you want to just tell us about your experiences of who and what these galactic beings are and how they are relevant for right now, what we're going through on this planet
Mm,
at this time?
Sure.
Mhm.
So, for starters, they're watching over what's going on right now. As we all know, there's a lot going on over the entire planet in several different layers of different emotional things and all sorts. But yes, they are watching what's going on over the planet right now. I have felt that because normally I get a lot of contact here where I live. And I
Mm.
hold groups here too, like small groups, which we haven't done for ages because of the weather. But we
Where is
sit
that so
outside.
people know?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm in the Bay of Plenty. I'm in between Kadikadi and Tauranga.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And yeah, we hold small groups here, and we have them turn up. There's a protocol we go through to connect in with them, and we have them turn up. We see the craft in the sky. Sometimes they come on the ground and they don't fully form. They will not fully form because they do not want to frighten us. They look extremely different to us because I'm a seer, so I can see them in here,
Yeah.
and I've drawn some of them. But yeah, they look so different to us that if they was to fully materialize, they would frighten the living daylights out of people, I'm sure, just because of the way they look. Like there's some beings that are a bit insectoid looking.
Mm.
So you might, I've seen what they called the mantis beings.
Me too. They've
Yeah,
appeared in my dream
yeah,
space a lot when I was in Brazil. Yeah.
yeah, and they are tall, dark, insect-looking beings. So you can imagine if they was to appear solid in front of you, you'd be absolutely frightened. But they don't do that. They come down in um, it's almost like a scintillating light sort of shape. You can sort of sometimes see similar shapes, a bit like the pictures behind me, but not as clear as that, much more opaque than that. And,
Mm.
they sort of, so they're not fully formed. Their particles, if you like, are still vibrating at such a high rate. They're sort of bit like a mist, but it's
Mm.
light. Um, so they do come down like that. I've had so much different contact. I think maybe I'll start at the beginning when I first had contact.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
I was working as a healer in Auckland, and I had my own practice at home. I would have people come and have sessions with me.
Mm.
I was just doing Reiki then. Um, my healings have changed so much now. But anyway, I was just doing Reiki then, and then I would start getting beings come in that were attached to people that were lying on the bed. So I'd like an aquatic being come in for one lady I was working with, and the unconditional love coming from this aquatic being was so profound and so beautiful that it really made you feel emotional just feeling it. And this being was stood the other side of the healing table, and my friend's sort of out of it on there. And yeah, this was a friend that I was doing. She was a clairvoyant. So I was doing my healing thing, and this being was there, and total aquatics, like fin type ears, sort of a pointy thing here. Like the skin looked like it was a bit like a hippopotamus type skin, a solid, stood up on 2 feet, but solid, like square shoulders, chunky sort of being with all these fin type things that were around its face, and these tiny small black eyes, and this long thin mouth that was like together. Yeah, and but the unconditional love, and even because I've drawn this being, and even the black eyes, you could feel the love coming out of these black eyes. So anyone who thinks that black is a negative color, it's not. And from an artist's point of view, black holds every color of the spectrum in it. So yeah, this being was lovely. Anyway, finished the session. She came up, brought my friend back through into this room, and I said to her, "Oh, by the way, did you sense anyone in the room?" She went, "Yes, I did." I said, "Can you just sort of explain what they look like?" And she explained exactly who I'd seen. So that was confirmation that they were there. And I used to get, this is not ET, but I used to get Anubis, the dog-headed
the
Egyptian, yeah, stood at the back door in my healing room, and he'd come in every time I'm working on someone, like a guardian, stood there. Yeah, it was fascinating, and other people would see him, so it wasn't just me that saw him. Yeah, huge, powerful being. Anyway, while I was doing that work, I went to a Deb Weber workshop one day. Actually, this is it's sort of all aligns, and she was talking about cosmic stuff and ET and stuff like that, and I thought, oh, I'm really fascinated by that. Anyway, me and my daughter had been seeing flashbulbs at night when we let the dogs out for their last constitutional, and we'd see flashbulbs, and I was thinking it was spirit then. Now I know, of course, it wasn't. Anyway, after that daytime with Deb Weber, we were going for a meal around my friend's house that night, and we were sat there we'd eaten, and we just sat there talking. And it was a summer night. The curtains were open behind my friend who was sat opposite me, and the ranch slider was there, and I could sort of see a plane go past. And literally the lights started flashing in the house, like going crazy above the table. And I thought, I'll just go and check to see if the lights are going off anywhere else. And they were going off in the hall and the bathroom. Came back, sat down. I was thinking that this lady's father was coming through in spirit with a message or something. But it wasn't that. I was staring out the ranch slider in between my two friends, and I saw this little grey being, was probably about 3 or 4 foot high, stare at me through the window. Big black almond eyes, but tiny being. Literally must have uncloaked for about 10 seconds, and I saw them with these eyes, so it wasn't even with my third eye. And then after that, they vanished again. And after that, I got this impression, because this is how ET work with you. They put impressions into your mind. They are so advanced. They once you have had contact, and probably even once they've got their eye on you, depending on what you're doing. And I know they're attached to a lot of people that are in the healing, spiritual realms, working for the betterment of people, coaches even, and the coaches probably don't even know it.
Yeah.
But they plant images or information into your mind. So they put into my mind, we're watching you. And I thought, oh, this is really cool. My husband was sat next to me. I couldn't say anything because the two friends that we're sat with don't believe in any of this stuff. So as soon as we got out, I told him what had happened. He didn't see it. Everybody saw the lights were going crazy, and then after this being vanished, the lights all went back to normal. My friend just thought a bulb was going, and I and I thought, no, there's much more than that. I don't want to frighten anyone either with what I'd seen. So we went back, and then it was probably it wasn't very long after. It might have been about 3 weeks afterwards. Every time I worked on a client, this hologram being would come in and stand in the corner of the room. And I want to say it was a she, it was like a female energy wearing a uniform. So I think she was, by the way she looked, I think she was Arcturian. I also think she was part of the Galactic Federation because she had a uniform on with very square shoulders, long gown. The material, because I see details, the material was like moving, like it was particles that were all put together, and it was like a sort of a silvery grey, and they were all moving, but I could see it was a long gown type thing, and she had like a collar that came up here, very long neck, and a very petite sort of almond shaped face, petite features, but I could see she had a big head that came up like that, but she was also wearing some form of head covering that was on it, and there was some sort of emblem thing there, and I can't remember what that actually was. Anyway, I was working on a client when she appeared first, and I'm thinking, wow, I mean, I was used to seeing spirit and past loved ones and people like that on a session anyway, but I thought, wow. And I could see that she was shivering, so shimmering, so I knew she was a hologram. Yeah. And literally I was working on a client, and then all of a sudden she's putting images in my mind of the layers of the aura, and the frequencies that were running through the layers of the aura, and what I could do if I stuck my hands in and started moving around. I'm not really knowing what I was doing. I was just following her lead. She was teaching me, and I could see that there were like thin streams of frequency that were moving as my hands were moving them around, and it was like purely intuitive, like what I was doing. But they also said to me, you've got to sing. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got a client on the table and now I've got to sing. So I did. I followed it, because, you know, when you work with spirit or you work with other interdimensional beings, they're here to help us. You just follow their lead. So I did. I started singing. Client must have had a bit of a shock, but anyway, they didn't really say anything. That was very unusual healing. That's what I got at the end. Yeah, I sang, and I was singing light language. I realised now. So toning, sort of singing, but I ended up, if you slow it right down, it's light language. Anyway, that was over 17 years ago. And since then, I've had so much contact. And after that event, she came in and taught me for about I can't really remember whether it was 3 weeks or more than that. I think it was more than that. It might have been about 6 weeks. Every time I had a client, she would come in the corner room and teach me things about what I was doing on the client, using the voice. The voice was really important as well, and it's singing from the soul, not just singing, you know.
I have the same experience actually, and I use my voice in my ceremonies and client sessions, and it's so interesting because people say, oh, I want to hear more of your voice.
Yes.
No way a singer at all, but as you say, they recognize it's a soul recognition of the frequency that you're carrying. Yes. And you know, I've done it even at sacred sites when I've been doing activations, and my voice has somehow sounded like a crystal bowl or something. People were like, what is happening? Yeah. And that's happened. I mean, it's channeling energy, isn't it, really, ultimately? Yes, but and it does have the ability to break through any density in people's auric fields and all sorts of stuff. So I always say our voice is our medicine, you know. And everyone's got their own.
Yeah, totally. And I try and encourage everybody to sing. Doesn't even matter what you sound like. sing from the depths of your heart and your being, it's
Mm-hmm.
also very healing for each person if they do it for themselves.
Totally.
Yeah, and it clears the throat chakra as well, which often gets blocked, especially for us women.
Mm.
um you've just reminded me of this was all to do with the voice. I went on a Maori healing weekend years ago down in the Waikato, down near Waitomo Caves, and it was a beautiful weekend. And we did, we stepped through to different portals, and we did lots of different things. And one of the things was the lady that was running it. She had like just an ordinary garden frame, and I know she works with portals. The same with me. I work with portals also. I can open and close them. So she had this ordinary garden frame, and she was saying to everyone in the group, it's quite a large group, right, I've opened a portal here, and I want you to come forward, step through, and see if you can feel it, and then step back. So I did, and I could feel the difference. And so then when I stepped back, then she'd said, when you step back, I want you to do something for the group. Doesn't matter what it is. And at this stage, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not used to doing anything in front of a group of people, and all that. It's totally different now, but that was back then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just said, because I was doing the singing in my one-on-one sessions, because I'd already had the contact then. I just said to everyone, okay, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to just come down into your heart, and I want you to just listen, because I'm going to sing to your cells of your body. And so the male Maori healer's grandma was stood to the side, and she was a highly spiritual lady. She had the I don't know what it's called, but the tattoo here, also the tattoo here. Yeah. And she was a lovely lady, beautiful, beautiful energy. Anyway, everyone else closed their eyes, but she didn't. But so I just had to carry on. Anyway, I did. And I could feel, and I know she saw it too. And this was the first time I'd probably sung outside and realized what my voice could do. And I felt like this huge ball of energy came out from me, and it was so large that it encompassed the whole playing field that we were on, and the building that was at the back of us, because there was dogs in the building. They came out barking their heads off. The two guys that were doing the cooking came rushing out. They felt it, and then when I stopped, it sort of like came back in again. And she saw it. I know she did. And then after that, 4 rosellas flew across the top of us, all squawking and going like that. And the male Maori healer that was there teaching, he came up to me afterwards. He said, I don't know what was going on, but we don't get rosellas down here. And rosellas is sort of my sign, my bird sign. And I just flippantly, I said, oh, they followed me down from Auckland. Yeah. But anyway, I think they must have seen something, because they invited me into the family at the end of the whole weekend. They did a ceremony, invited me in, and gave me a gift of which was a basket, which I've still got here, filled with spiritual gifts, which was beautiful. I felt so blessed to receive that. But anyway, back to the ET stuff. Yeah, after that event, I got taught by this, I feel she was Arcturian. I wasn't sure at the time, but now I think she was. And also what started happening then was I was getting downloads at night, and it would come in like light language being written, and I'd see it in my dream, and then I'd wake up, and then I could still see it being written across behind my eyelids. And I knew that that was a download. I'd get full body tingles with it. And this would happen so regularly, it'd be at least once a week. And I knew it was them. And I'd be going out at night, and I'd be seeing the flash bulbs. And I started to find that I could communicate with the flash bulbs by just asking them, if you're there, can you please show me? And then I'd get boom, 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 going across the sky.
Mm.
And my daughter would witness it, and then my husband would witness it as well. And it was like I could communicate with them, so I knew they were working with me. And I think on the ship it wasn't just Arcturians on the ship. I think it was probably like a galactic federation, um, a mixed
Mm.
races on the ship. Anyway, after that first event, and I just thought I've got to find other people in New Zealand that have had contact. I've just got to find my tribe now, my new tribe.
Yeah.
And so I did. I searched online, and I found that there was a C5 group in New Zealand, and I uh, phoned up, and it was Doug that answered. Doug Parker, who's been over to Stephen Greer's stuff several times and knows a lot of those people. Anyway,
Mm.
we met. I thought, God, I'm meeting this strange man in a cafe. I said to my husband, are you coming with me? Because I'm meeting a strange man that's into ETs and UFOs and stuff like that. So he came with me, and we met up, and Doug showed me some evidence and some pictures that he had, and we spoke a lot about my experience and some of the experiences he had had and all that. And then I went out to his place a couple of times and did meditations, and they turned up there too. And then sort of our life took over for a while, and then the C5 people put on an event in Thames, and it was one of the most amazing events, I must say. We had so much contact. We had ground flash, which is literally a light from, you can't see the craft because it's cloaked, a light. It's real quick as well, opens up there, puts a beam of light all over the ground that lights it up as if it was daylight. And then you can see the beam track back up.
Right.
Yeah, I've witnessed two of them. One was at my place here as well, which was fantastic. There was only four of us ladies here when this happened.
What
And
time of the
yeah,
night was it? What time of the
but
night is these? What time of the night were these experiences happening?
um, yeah, I suppose it was a bit later on. It was probably about, well, the one that happened here, that was fairly early because we were getting ready to sit out. So that was probably about, say, 7 or 7:30.
Right. Yeah.
But the one at Thames, that was later. That was about 10:30.
Yeah.
We had beings come on the ground there in a circle around us, and we could sort of see them, the scintillating light, and we were definitely in a field. And then four of us had this amazing interaction with what we call OT, which is other dimensional beings, which are here looking after nature. We
Wow.
walked up in the pitch black into the forest, and previous that day we'd gone for a walk through there, and I came to this spot, and it just felt like like a fairy energy spot. You
Mm.
can feel it when you walk through places. You think, oh my God, this feels really magical here. And I also get signs in nature which are like twigs that are crossed over, or in a really weird shape, or in a pattern that looks a bit like language written, and you
Right.
can see it's been placed there, so it's not stuff that's just fallen off the tree. You can
Mm.
actually see it's been placed there, and I know that that's the nature beings communicating with me and letting me know that this is a spot where they are. And I get that even when I go for a walk around here. I look out for it all the time, and I get it in different places around here too.
Mm.
um, Anyway, we went for a walk, and we ended up, Doug stayed up the hill for a bit. It's pitch black in the middle of the night in a forest, no torch. So we ended up walking sort of right into the forest, and I kind of realized that we might have been in that spot where we were, where I sensed it earlier. Anyway, Doug stayed up the hill a bit, and there were four of us that walked pitch black down to this spot, and we stopped, and we could sense there was an energy all around us, and it was strong, it was powerful energy. And Jeremy said, can you feel that? I said, yes, I can. And he said, that's the guardian. And he said, can you look behind that and see what you can see? So I did, and I saw, not with my human eyes, this is with the inner sight, a
Mm.
sea of little faces. They were tiny, sort of about 3 or 4 foot high beings that were staring at us from inside the bush, or in another dimensional space, actually, staring at us. And then we heard footsteps coming down the path on 2 legs. So it sounded, or we thought it was Doug. So Jeremy said, "Doug, is that you?" No answer. "Doug, is that you?" No answer. It's coming closer and closer. Pitch black, so we can't see anything. And I said, then I said, "Doug, is that you?" No answer. And the footsteps actually came down and stood right in front of us.
Wow.
And I could feel this sort of like swaying feeling, like I was kind of being sucked backwards a bit. So the energy field, you know, we could feel, it was almost palpable. And this being stood in front of us for a little while. We don't know even how long. And then all of a sudden, Jeremy said, "Oh, it's gone. They've gone." So they must have just dematerialized. And then we started walking back up the path. Doug was having his own experience with a little being. And he said to us, "We could hear you. I could hear you like blimmin' elephants coming up the path." And then the being that was with him ran away. He actually heard the footsteps.
Yeah.
And on that particular C5 event, on another evening, we were stood there and they called us back to the circle. And I said to the person that was with me, "Look, I'll be back in a minute," because I could sense something, but I wasn't sure what it was. "I'll be back in a minute. I'm just going to stand here for a few more minutes." Anyway, they went back and it wasn't very far. It was just down the hill a bit. And I stood there and I thought, I don't know, I kind of feel like there's something going on, but I'm not sure what. And then I moved really quickly. I thought, I'll go back. I moved really quickly and these footsteps right next to me ran. And I couldn't see anybody there, but there was somebody stood right there. Went back. Even the people that were doing the cooking on that retreat weekend had experiences in the house when we were all up on the field. It was a really active, and that was at the back of Thames.
Right.
Yeah, all sorts. We saw craft in the sky actually moving. We had a big craft come over the house. You could see the lights the other side of the clouds. Huge amount of activity there, which was fabulous. And then I got totally into it, and I'm like, I need to go on every single C5 thing they do. So I did, yeah. I did, and then I became part of it. So
amazing.
yeah, it was honestly, it was fabulous. I've since sensed ET a lot, even when just before the Christchurch massacre, the shooting, we were down there doing an event that week before. And on the morning of the shooting was the end day of our week-long retreat thing. And that night before, we were out on the field and I thought, there's something going on. I was saying to the Canadian lady that I was with, I don't quite know what it is, but I thought there's not many here with us. They're somewhere else. There's something happening somewhere else. I thought it was like a natural event, like a tsunami was going to happen, or something like that, or an earthquake, something like that. And then I saw this tall being with my third eye, and it was a very tall grey who I've drawn with very unusual features, very, very long neck, really, really skinny, and long, long arms, small shoulders, and different facial features, a much longer head. And I knew this being was there. I couldn't see them with my actual eyes, but I knew this being was there, and I was sort of trying to tune into them. And it was them that were giving me the feeling that there's not many of us here. There's only a small crew here with you. There is something else going on, but they didn't tell me what. So the next day we all left. As we were driving back towards Christchurch, I stopped in a cafe to get a coffee, and I overheard this couple talking and going, "Oh my goodness, wasn't that terrible?" And da 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 da. So I went up to them and I said, "Look, I've been out of any communication for a week. Can you tell me what's happened? And then they told me about the shootings in the Christchurch mosque. And I went, oh, in my mind, I'm going, oh my God, that's what it was. They were watching all of that unfold because they're so advanced. They know exactly what's going to happen before
Yeah.
it happens
Yeah.
with us down here. I mean, they've stopped. I don't know whether any of the people watching know, but in the past they've actually stopped humans from firing off nuclear weapons. They shut the whole lot down in the States before it actually happens. They were getting to the point where, okay, we're going to press the button soon, and literally the whole lot just shut down, so they couldn't do anything. And that was, we think, that was ET that shut it all down. Because what I've heard is that if a nuclear bomb goes off here, it doesn't just affect us, it actually ripples through the dimensional spaces and affects right through the cosmos, everyone else that lives out there too, in every dimension. So yeah, they don't want to. So I wouldn't, if anyone's worried about nuclear war happening, I doubt very much that's going to happen, because ET won't let it happen, because it's going to affect all of them as well. So don't worry about that. I think that's just a theatre that's unfolding around the world.
Do you think that's why we have the level of involvement and increasing involvement from our ET and galactic friends? Is it because of, you know, Earth is part of an intricately balanced structure that is the cosmos, so one thing does affect the other, like everything's interrelated. Here with us, it's the micro of the macro, so to speak, and therefore that's where this interest in potentially sort of assisting us in getting back into alignment with our divine blueprints, and working through some of the energies, old paradigm energies on the planet that have been dominating and controlling, and the old systems of the monetary kind of thing and finance and all of it. Is that your understanding of why they're stepping forward, and even in a more pronounced way at this time?
Yes, I totally feel that. Because we're in that period now of immense fast change, and when I say fast, you know, in the big grand scheme of things, even like 20 years is fast. You know, when you look at that's like extra fast. You know, so in the big grand scheme of things, yes, we are evolving. They're all watching what's happening down here, because they know that we have been, if you like, this is what my understanding is, it from contact that I've had, that humans are actually really powerful beings, but we've been led and been pushed down over eons of time and led to believe through programming and lots of other stuff that we are weak, that we are nothing, that we are just like slaves, which is totally untrue. We are actually amazing multidimensional beings, and once we get to understand that and feel it and know it without any doubt whatsoever, you start to, it's like these downloads I get, I know that they alter my whole being, my light being. So I know that my multidimensional gifts, I will say, it's hard to actually consciously understand it, because it's like, yeah, it's like codes that are coming in and expanding everything out on a multidimensional level. And when you really look into it, you get to understand that me here is only one small part of me, and that I'm connected to many other parts of me that already exist at the same time, that are already in many different, like off planet, on planet, in planet, like everything. And this is how you get to realize that you are creation in itself. You are part of what people would call the God source. We are that as humans, and on a multidimensional level, as each one of us rise, the earth is rising also, and we're becoming more expanded in consciousness, in light body, and we're rising up so rapidly right now. This is why all the old systems are collapsing and falling down, because we're literally going, and all that dense oldness is like just falling away from us, including the Earth. And so I know that ET are really excited about what's happening here. Obviously, for some that aren't understanding what's happening, it's confusing and it's not nice for them and everything. But if by any chance you can rise yourself up and look at the bigger picture that's going on here, rather than be stuck in the dense energy of it, but rise up and look as if you were a fly on the wall or a spaceship in space looking down at Earth and seeing the magnificence that is actually taking place now. So as we're rising up, they are seeing that we're now starting to see exactly who we are, many of us. And so the contact, the full disclosure contact, is already happening. It's not that they're going to come down in their ships and all of a sudden take over the Earth and do all that stuff. That it's already
save us.
yeah, that's right. They're already in contact with so many people. Like Ross, what's his name? He does ET research, and he's an Australian man. I'll try and think of it in a minute. What something nation he does on YouTube. Anyway, he's been investigating all over the planet, different people's experiences, whistleblowers that have come out. And I found out recently that he's getting from ordinary people between 10,000 and 15,000 emails regularly from ordinary people that are having their own experiences. So this is how contact is happening. They're going to get us used to them. So we're aware of them. You know, we're going to have our own individual experiences. Then we might, like my journey has been led to, start groups where we're actually, you know, having contact in a group situation. And then eventually, when enough humans have had this contact and they're not frightened, because ET do not want to frighten us at all. When humans aren't frightened of it and we've had our own experiences and had different awarenesses, that's when I think the full visual contact will happen. They still might not show themselves in being form, but we will see their craft more. Until we get used to the fact that many different beings, like planet Earth, look at all the creatures on planet Earth and how different we all are. And many of them look so different to anything that are on planet Earth. So they might take their time actually fully showing themselves. But as we rise, of course, in frequency level, we're going to bring that distance that's in between, that's stopping that, much closer together anyway. Like the spiritual people will say the veils are disappearing, which yes, they are. As we rise, it's going to make it easier for them to actually come more into our space as well, on an individual level. And yeah, everything is connected. We literally are. And I actually feel really excited about the future. I don't know how long it'll take. I do know, though, on another scale of things, I do know that humans have reverse engineered ET craft, and they now have quite advanced. So humans have quite advanced craft themselves that they've reversed engineered. So even if you see an ET craft, you've really got to use discernment of, is that human or is that ET? Now, my understanding is that ET craft, I don't know if humans have got this technology yet, they might have, but an ET craft is often like opaque, like energy, see-through, often in ball shape. The ones that I've seen have had what looks like a nucleus of um, light frequency in the middle, um, and traveling at such high speeds, and they can expand themselves out or contract in, bit the macro, the micro. We've also had come over here what we called a mothership. We couldn't actually see the ship, but we could see the lights. They allowed us to see the sequence of lights that went over. It was massive. It was about 2 or 3 rugby pitches long and about 1 wide. It was huge, and it only had a small crew on it, which was interesting. Mixed beings for when we tuned in, and it came over here. It took about 20 minutes to go over the top of us. And one of the groups that I had here was only a small group, and that's what Stephen Greer actually says, that often you get more contact if you've got a smaller group.
Yeah,
they'll come down on the ground. You get different experiences. They can heat the energy field up. They can make it go really cold. They can create a space in the clouds so you can see the stars. They can cover it up again. They can just do so many different things. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's nothing to be frightened of.
No. And I think, all of this, as you say, that level of discernment right now, not just about in the ET space, but in everything going on the planet
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Nothing is what as it seems, really. It's
yeah,
not sort of the linear sort of black and white representation that you might
yeah,
want to judge with the human mind. And it's really calling for new levels of us to be engaged in our heart than ever before, because the heart has the knowing. The heart
yeah,
has that level of discernment that is required for this, that totally circumvents anything going on here that we're led to believe or could have been programmed into or whatever else, because this is the connection to our multidimensional blueprint, basically,
yeah,
and our light
yeah,
signature. So
yeah,
it's the organic template that we want to be dialing into with all of this. But in 2017, these light beings showed up with me and told me that heart technology was the most relevant and effective tool on the planet, and
yes,
that is
totally.
using our heart as a multidimensional technology for all sorts of stuff, but
Mm,
including this. This
yeah,
is, you can't, I don't think, have multidimensional experiences unless you are so squarely anchored in your heart.
yeah,
And so, if anybody is wanting to explore these kind of experiences, that would be probably my biggest recommendation. I don't know what yours would be, because you
yeah,
have to be here, because you've got to be in that present moment. You have to be engaged in a level of the quiet stillness of the heart space. And
mm,
yeah, that it's like a stargate, so it is a portal into these other dimensional realms while you are just sitting where you are right now. So
it
yeah,
does.
and I think it keeps unfolding more and more, the importance and the reasoning why they were telling me that back in 2017.
Yeah,
So
totally,
yeah,
totally. And when you come down into your heart space and you just really open up, I call it the sixth dimensional heart space, where literally it's so open and you're so connected to everything. Not only are you doing what you've just said, but you are radiating out such a high frequency in that space. You are only going to attract in what you're radiating out. So when you do that from the heart, you're only going to attract in higher beings that are also on that frequency level. So they're coming in. Again, they're beautiful beings that are here with unconditional love, if you like, and all of that beautiful energy that goes with it, because we are radio transmitters and
totally.
receivers.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's through the heart, the electronics of the heart.
yeah,
If we radiate out that love, you can just use it in so many ways. I mean, if I
oh
go into a shopping mall or a cinema and I feel that everyone's like, I go, oh God, I've got to change this. So I'll literally just open my heart out, radiate love, and I feel that love myself, and I feel such joy and gratitude and all of that wonderful stuff. And I know it's beaming out from me as I walk through. And then I start to see people smile, and then I start to see, people's lifting up.
yeah.
It's amazing how you
I
can,
mean,
once you're in there.
yeah, that heart field, it is the largest electromagnetic field in the body. And so
Yeah, Yeah.
coming into contact with everyone and everything, and it's how also nature engages with us as well.
Yes.
That really intimate connection and that experience that you talk about feeling just so at one with everything, and
Yeah.
because everything is so interconnected if you get out of the programs of the mind. And so yeah, it is, yeah, so crucial in
It,
this next bit that we're moving through, because
it
it
is.
does also keep you out of the panic and the fear of what your mind wants to perceive, or the way you've been taught to look at and view this,
Yeah.
black and white reality that's playing out in front of, with all the drama and the chaos and the systems crumbling and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and actually come into the truth of that, because we don't want to be contributing extra
No.
energy to that and
No,
buying into
that's
it
right.
when it's just working itself out of the system. And as you
Yeah.
say, it's almost like pay no mind. And what we are focusing on is these beautiful, loving energies that we're creating, that resonance and frequency we're sending out on a, global scale to everywhere in our daily life, and going to the movies and all of that jazz. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I often, and anyone can do this, with something going on in the world, or if it's something going on close to home, even in your family, you can do this. One thing is love bombs. You open your heart out, you get into that space. You can do it with your hands, or you don't even need to do it with your hands.
Mm.
I don't do it with my hands anymore, but if you're just starting off, you just build an energy bubble. And if you do that, you can gently feel the energy building within your hands. Place it in front of your heart and just pour unconditional love into it, and fling it at someone who's either annoying you, or two people that are arguing, or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's just pure unconditional love that's being flung at them.
Yeah.
And then another thing that I do is I call it a blanket of love. So I will do that same thing. I will put it like a laser beam blanket, if you like, and I'll drape it over. So I do this over whole areas. I'll drape it over a war zone, or I'll drape it over a city that's got a lot of crime, or again, you can do it with family members. If there's something going on with a family, you can drape a blanket of love around them, and it seems to like literally coming around them, like they're being encompassed in unconditional love, and you see people start to change.
Mm.
um I'll just mention this, because you were saying about multidimensional beings and spaces. My absolute overall passion is to connect to multidimensional beings on any spectrum. I do the lower dense stuff and I clear all that. So I do connect with them, but I don't want to stay connected with them.
Yeah.
But I can work with that, and I can clear them, and I send them off to places where they're going to be healed and stuff. But I'm also I don't even know if you know this, Joanna, but I'm in a physical mediumship group, and we meet once a week, and we meet through Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment we're doing transfiguration, and so the people on the other end of the screen are watching when each one of us take it in turns to go into deep meditation. We have to have a red bulb, a blacked out room, and what we're trying to do is to get spirit to come into our realm more physically. We know they can do it because, if someone passes away, you can, family members will come and let another family member know that they've gone. Like my mum did. She turned the TV on and off 7 times, and the next morning a car went past with "Love Mum" written on the number plate. So I knew that Mum had made all that happen just to let me know that she knows, and she's fine, and that she's with me dad now. So in this transfiguration, we go into deep meditation, and we ask one of our guides to actually come in and transfigure over us. And I'm so fascinated because, because we video it, and what they do with me is, and it seems to be the same gentleman that comes through every time. If he is a human, I'm not sure. But they make me bald. So they literally disappear my hair completely. Yeah. They sort of bring my head out wider here. They make like a shadow come down here. My nose goes a different shape. My eyes actually open, but the eyeball of the spirit eyeball is looking down, and you can just about see the pupil. and sometimes it's like a real emerald green, and sometimes it's like a darker brown, and my eyes are like a bluey grey.
Mm.
They change the shape of my face, they change the shape of my jawline, they make my neck go like quite wide like a male's would be. And it's fascinating to see the changes.
Wow.
And we've now started having movement in the room, so I've got chimes that I hang up, and we hope that spirit move them. Well, they've just started to move the bottom of the chime round.
Mm.
So I've had contact with ghosts, different energies all throughout my life, right from childhood, hearing and seeing spirit and everything. But also, me and John, we occasionally, when it's not raining, it seems to be raining a lot lately, but when it's not raining, occasionally we'll go in the bush at night in the dark. And in John's head, this makes me laugh. In John's head, he's hoping to see a deer because we get deer coming onto the property. He's hoping that a deer will come up to us. But in my head, I'm hoping that we'll connect to the nature beings. So I'm sitting there, we're sitting there in the dark, right next to each other on a chair. We're sitting there in the bush, pitch black.
Yeah.
And I'm like opening my heart out, and I'm radiating my heart out, and I'm saying to the nature beings, if you're there, can you please show us a sign? Can you just make something move or show us something? Anyway, one particular time we did it, down the sort of gully, we sort of sit at the top of a gully that's in our bush, and you can kind of look down the bottom of the gully. This small little light, circular light, appeared, and then I was going, oh my God, thank you, because I know it's nothing else, it can only be nature beings.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh my goodness, thank you, please, if you can you make yourself bigger or do something else? And literally it started to expand out and go back and out and back. And I'm going, I've got to see if John can see this, because I might be seeing it with my third eye.
Yeah.
So I said to him, come over here, look at this light down here. And I pulled him right over, and we put our heads together, and I said, look down, sort of down the hill a bit. Can you see that light? And he went, yes, I can see that. And I don't know what happened, but then he said, shall we go back to the house? I don't know, but he might got a bit spooked. It did get very cold, actually. The temperature dropped really cold. So I think that was also the nature spirits. And sometimes with the nature beings, when they come up close, you can get a real woody smell come in. And that's the nature beings as well. And if they're around during the daytime, this is all little signs that people can watch out for. With no wind, you could see like a leaf that's going like this, or a branch of a tree that's going like that. And that's actually them going, well, we're here. And again, those twigs that are crossed over, like they're letting you know that they're around, or just feeling something different.
I've heard them singing and playing music as well.
Have you? That's really cool.
Yeah, like I was tapping into some kind of, because I did say to someone, oh, is there a camp close by?
Yeah.
Or something. And yeah, I could hear all these people having a really fun time playing music, singing,
Wow,
like
that's
dancing.
cool.
Yeah, and it was oh gosh, I was down the line a little bit, more towards Waikato, I think. But I'll hear the music because I'm a lot clairaudient as well. And so I
Yeah.
think that's also a sign if you're sort of in the middle of nowhere and you start hearing some kind of musical kind of thing, like that's definitely a sign as
Oh,
well.
definitely. Absolutely it is. Yeah. My friend who's also clairaudient, she's heard the Maori flute in the forest on near a lake in one of the Rotorua lakes. And that is I can't never say the word, the Pahata. Here.
Papata, I mean, neither. I'm awful
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah. Well, the fairy folk, anyway, that are
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
forest. Um, Yeah, I've had contact with fairies as well. Actually, we used to get little lights in the bottom of our garden in Beachlands when we lived there. That was the fairies coming up close, and I would call them in sometimes on healing sessions, and because they can be a little bit mischievous as well, the fairy folk, and sort of play little tricks with you. And yeah, it can be quite excitable energy that comes in when you call them in. And you can feel that energy. So I've called them in on healing sessions before now to come in and help in any way they can. And then on a CE5 event we went to down in the South Island, we stood at the edge of the bush. And again, me and this other lady, we just stood there and we opened our hearts and we just saying to the bush, you know, or ET, if anyone's there, can you please just let us know that you're there? And we've really opened up. And when you're doing that, you have to do it in a way where they, whoever you're contacting, don't feel that you've come with any malice or anything either. So the opening of the heart is really important. But you also stand with your hands out and down. So you haven't got your hands in pockets or anything like that. Your hands are out and down so they can see where your hands are, and you're literally open. Yeah. So you're not threatening. You're not coming across as threatening. Yeah. So we were stood there like that, and I started to see these pinpricks of light in the tree that's in front of us. And I said to the lady, can you see those lights? And she could see them as well. And then as we sort of connected with them and said, oh, thank you so much for showing yourselves, the tree just lit up with all these little lights. Yeah. And then a couple from the group wanted to go back to the lodge. So they started walking back. We could hear them coming along the path that was behind us. And they came along. And as they got sort of fairly close to us, all the lights went out. They walked past, they said, hi, sorry to disturb you. And they walked past and we could hear them talking, going on. And as they got a certain distance away, all the lights came back on again. Yeah, and we were just stood there and just going, oh my goodness, thank you so much for showing yourselves. And they were moving around the tree and stuff. It was so cool. Yeah, and we've, down in the South Island, we've even had contact with Bigfoot on a C5. Yeah. And that was different. You stood there in the pitch black, sort of just in the bush or just out of it. And this crunching and boom, boom, boom that's going on right in front of you in the bush. And you've got to stand there with your heart open going, I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
It's not for the faint-hearted, this stuff. I think people have the ballooning and whatever, but you need to have courage to be able to do it, actually.
Absolutely, you do, because you're in the pitch black a lot at night. Yeah. And each little group on that particular time had their own interaction with Bigfoot.
Wow.
It was awesome. Yeah.
And do you think that these beings are, you know, depending on who shows up for different people, that they are essentially kind of almost aspects of their most expanded dimensional field that probably has potentially had experiences as or with these kinds of different dimensional beings, whether they're elementals or galactics, that, you know, when people are interacting with these, there's something in your energy signature that is actually corresponding to that, because we all contain all of it in a way, you know, because we are creation itself, like the universal God spark, you know, like so you know, I've never really felt like the guides and angels and all of that is like, you know, it's more like it's part of my field that's just like I'm talking to me.
Yes.
Maybe through a different character to get me to see it in a different way because I'm in this linear human experience, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think they are different beings. I do feel that. But like you said, we are connected to everything. So a part of them is a part of us, definitely. I feel that everyone can do this, but it's almost like they've got to be activated. So they've got to be it's hard to explain, like definitely in their consciousness they've got to be willing, because we've got free will, so you've got to be willing, wanting to. I've had contact since I was little with different nature spirits and ghosts and all sorts. I mean, even when the earliest memory I've got of ghosts is must have been around about 5, and I was scared of it back then. By the way, I was
Oh, I bet you
petrified.
were.
Yeah, and yeah, and at night it would be at night in the dark when I was on my own that I'd wake up and I'd feel them all in the room and everything, and all sorts of energies and different energies. I found out later on in life that that particular house we lived in World War II was actually commandeered and made into an old airdrome where the Air Force, the British Air Force, would take off and land. And there was an air raid shelter and all sorts of stuff still there when we were there, which we used to play in. And so I know now, and so I understand now why I was feeling what I was feeling back then, because there would have been injured war veterans coming back in planes, landing, possibly dying on the spot. And it's funny because my brother, yeah, my brother in that house, when he did drawings, all he would draw was war scenes, aeroplanes over the top firing down on tanks, and that's all he would draw. And he was only 2 years older than me, so I was 5, he would have been 7.
Yeah.
So we both were feeling the energy of the land that had held the imprint of what had happened there, and the trapped spirits that were there, which were, when they passed, in high trauma. And of course, scared stiff of it then. But as I grew, and then we moved, and we then lived in a Kingston Moorwood Agricultural College was my sort of playground, and it was 2 massive big manor houses, and the gardens were, in their day when they were actually belonged to the gentry, the gardens were beautiful. They had like a Japanese garden, they had a maze, and it was just beautiful. They had a big lake there with swans on, and I would play. That was my playground, and I do a lot of play on my own because I was, there weren't that many other kids around. And I would walk through the gardens and I would see spirit, but I didn't see them in front of me. I would be walking along looking at what I'm looking at, and I knew I could see that there was someone walking sort of just parallel to the side of me, dressed in this beautiful crinoline dress that was pale blue with frills on it and a beautiful bonnet. And this lady is walking along, and I knew that she had no idea that I was there, but I knew she was there. And so,
Right.
yeah, every time I turned around and looked with my human eyes, I couldn't see her. But then when I turned back, I could see her out the back of my head with my third eye.
Yeah.
And another place we lived, I used to play in the forest there, and it was an old Roman road, and it was just getting dusk. It was very spooky. The mist was starting to come in, and I knew I had to get home because it was dinner time. So I started walking home along the old Roman road that I had to walk along, and then I could start. I heard this noise coming, and it was like, and it got louder and louder and louder, and I realised what I was hearing was marching soldiers. Then I could hear a horse going. Nee! Then I could hear like wheel tracks, and I knew that, and eventually it was all around me. It was happening all around me. It absolutely frightened me till I cried and I ran home. But I realised that I was hearing the imprint of a Roman battalion going along that Roman road. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so it's always been with me, but I think that if people want this experience, to first of all go in your consciousness, I am ready. I want to start experiencing things on a more multidimensional level.
Yeah.
Bring it to me.
Yeah.
But then you've got to be really aware, because sometimes things are really subtle,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
definitely. It's
Yeah,
the quiet space, isn't it? And
yeah,
you have to be open to it.
yeah,
Some people are just very closed down or they're just not willing. But if you are willing, and you have an intention and you keep putting it out there and
yeah,
reiterating it, and then connecting to your heart and spending more time bringing yourself back there,
yeah,
that's
totally.
part of it, isn't it?
It
And
is.
there are these C5 groups that you're um, strongly involved in all around New Zealand, aren't there? So there are places that you can go to learn practices that aren't just for ET contact, but do help you connect in,
Yeah.
and they're just heart-based practices, aren't they, really? So
Wow.
that's a beautiful group space to learn from. And
Yeah.
I know that there's, chat groups, and there's Facebook pages and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff. And yeah, I went on my first CE5 retreat. Like I've had a lot of activity just on my own and
Yeah.
in different experiences, and a lot in my dream space, and all sorts of stuff that I've had. But I'd never actually done an official CE5 contact retreat until, yeah, a few months ago. So that was really fun. And yes, we're going to be having one on my new property up north.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe even over the summer, if we could, and just do,
That'll be cool.
yeah, do some tents and things. But yeah, I'm really excited to see, because it's amazing sky up there. It's like a
Yeah.
dark sky zone, so it's pretty incredible.
We're actually really blessed in New Zealand because even with the guys that do the C5 here that also have done and are in contact with Stephen Greer, when they tell him what contact we're having here, he says to them, "You don't need to come over here. You are getting such amazing contact there." So New Zealand
Mm,
is a very special place, and I'll tell you why. The nature here hasn't been too humanized, if you like. There's still massive areas of natural bush here. When we first arrived in New Zealand, we'd never been here before, and we sold our house in the UK and came over. John had a job to go to, which was good. I didn't. 2 kids and 3 cats we brought over, and the contents of our house. We'd never been before, so we had no idea what to expect. In fact, one of John's mates in the UK said, "Oh, I've got a video you can watch all about New Zealand." And so we thought, "Oh, great, we'll sit down and we'll get some munchies in and we'll sit down as a family and we'll start watching this film about New Zealand." Guess what it was?
I mean,
It was Once We Were Warriors.
oh no.
Yeah. And I looked at John and going, are we sure we're going to New Zealand?
It's hilarious.
I know, obviously, his mate must have had a right laugh.
I bet
Um, yeah, so anyway, we arrived here, going back to the nature here, and we literally came out the airport, got in the taxi, and we're driving to the hotel, which Air New Zealand had put on for us, because that's who John had got a job with. Um, and we're driving along, and I'm looking at the bushes. So this was in central Auckland. So I'm looking at the bushes and the trees as we're going past, and it's like the bushes are going boom with this light and this energy that I could see just radiating out from them. And I was blown away by it. I was going, wow, I've never seen anything like it. And I
Mm,
said to John and the kids, wow, can you see the bushes on the side of the road and what's coming off them? And they're going, no, we can't see anything. So I knew it was only me that was seeing it. And I know now we've been here, well over 20 years. And I know now that actually fate brought us here.
mm,
And I know that I've been here before in a past life also. And the nature here is just so amazing. It really, really touches my heart when I hear about when they've done a 1080 drop, because I'm like, oh my God, no, don't
mm.
do that here, because, just let nature be.
Yeah.
And the life in nature here, not just on this physical realm, but on the multi-dimensional realm, is huge. It's
Mm,
like there's portals all over the place here where they're able to come into this space and go back out again.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
magical place, New
It
Zealand.
is. It does also has felt to me like I've been traveling around the world, tapping into different sacred sites and
Mm,
nature and beauty and all of that. But I definitely felt a lot of much far stronger energies here in New Zealand, and
mm.
quite pure. Feels
Pure energy, that's
untainted
it.
to a
That's
level.
it.
It's like the purity of it is different, and it's holding
Really.
you know, this frequency that is
Yeah.
more pristine and crystalline than
Yes.
elsewhere, that has had more stuff happening, at least in this human civilization on this planet, you know. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really powerful, and I'm actually being called, and why I'm on this journey to and just recently attained this beautiful piece of land up north, because I would really do feel a call to bring people into these experiences where they are using nature
Yeah.
interdimensionally and getting into those energetics, and also for bringing people from overseas to experience these portals and
Yeah.
energetics that we have in New Zealand that are just so incredibly powerful. So, you know,
That'd
I've
be
certainly
amazing.
got a lot of plans that have been in the pipeline about big tours and things that I'm doing,
Yeah.
and then this piece with this property coming into space to offer really high, beautiful, you know, retreat spaces for one-to-one private kind of experiences that are really, really incredible. So,
Magical.
and it's just there's so many different incredible portals and places in New Zealand that I've explored
Yeah.
since being back here after being in New York and London for so many years, and
Yeah.
I've just found it so there's so much more, you know. It's like, oh my God, I was looking for this like everywhere else, and it was here right on my back doorstep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you didn't need to go anywhere else.
So funny, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really is. And
It's
at one
like,
point I did think, oh, is that because I'm a New Zealander? But it's not you,
no,
you know,
no,
case in
that's
point,
right.
it's not. It is actually about you can just, if you are energetically sensitive like we are, you
Mm.
can tell the different frequencies that are operating and all of that, you know,
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know so many people that are in our realm of work, but also not in our realm of work that have been brought here if through I mean I can see it's fate. There's the people that aren't into what we're into, they just think they've come here to do work or because it's a lovely place,
Yeah.
but I think there's more behind it. I think that
Oh
fate
yeah.
has actually brought so many people here.
Mm,
Some people like us actually get the message and go, you need to go to live in New Zealand. We
mm,
didn't get that. um it was fate that definitely brought us here, and I know now that we were definitely meant to be here. And I do feel it's for a reason. I feel the reason is yet to unfold.
mm,
Um, I also feel that New Zealand is going to be the light of the world stage at some point, and I'm
yeah.
not quite
Maybe
sure in
so.
what way. I hoped that at once upon a time that it would be that because New Zealand's going to be clean and green, but we know it's actually not.
Mm,
So I don't think it's that. It could be on a multidimensional level that something is going to happen here that's just going to crack open those portals, if you like, and
yeah.
and bring that through.
Mm,
But definitely feel that New Zealand is going to be leading the way at some point. And I can see it by the amount of different people that have been drawn here. I mean, I know people that have come here on holiday and they haven't left.
yeah.
You know, and they've left all their family and
Yeah.
people behind.
Yeah.
So I
The
do
other
know
thing,
there's something going on here. Yeah,
the other thing is, you know, and I wrote about this in my first book, the Inside Hustle, but Saluntra King, who's passed on, she's in the spirit realm, but she was an amazing multidimensional being, and God, she was a laugh. She was an absolute scream, but she was quite adamant that the crown chakra, because there's chakras all over the planet, so
yeah,
the known crown chakra is technically Mount Kailash in Tibet, but she said actually that's the crown chakra of the old, and actually the crown chakra of the
yeah.
new earth is in Mount
Yes.
Roa in New Zealand, which I also
Well,
always thought was part of it. And I've actually
yeah,
helicoptered up there and checked out the energy, and then saw, oh my God, it's this perfect balance of sort of like
yeah,
dark and like male and feminine energies and this whole thing. And it was, you know, it was just full of
yeah,
multidimensional portals and spaces and places and all of that.
yeah.
But I do feel like
Which
there's
mountain is that? Sorry to
Mount
interrupt.
Titiroa. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Titiroa. Yeah. So it's, yeah, and that's down by you know, like, is it Manipuri, I think. It's kind of down by the fjords. I can send you the details about it anyway. But
Yes,
she
please.
was very adamant, but that process would take at least 300 years for the energies to fully transfer. But that is this, you know, place of pristine kind of energy and of the new consciousness energies, or new earth as some people call it, or
Yeah.
whatever else.
You
But
know what you've just said really resonates right in my heart. That actually
Mhm.
this is the place, the
Mhm.
crown chakra, and that really resonated with me. And I
Very
thought, oh my
cool.
God, yes, that's it. The new Earth is actually going to spring from New Zealand.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So there's definitely more going on here than meets the
yeah,
eye. And I have a
yeah,
feeling we are going
absolutely.
to be getting a lot of people from overseas coming in the next few years. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, isn't it funny actually that a lot of the elites have bought land here and built houses here and underground bunkers and all sorts of stuff here in
I
New Zealand.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
There is a bit of that going on. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I do believe that they know a lot of what actually is going on in those multidimensional realms,
Yeah.
and so they're building stuff here.
Mm.
So, and well, we know it's a magical place here. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter where you go, what piece of bush you go in either. You know, it's everywhere. It's
It really
everywhere
is.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
and because even when we moved here, because Gary Cook lives over the next road over
Oh,
from us.
yeah. I love Gary.
Yeah,
He's so
and
sweet.
so me and Gary get together every so often and have a chat. And
Mm.
he told me that a lot of certainly where we live, because it's extinct volcanoes, it's the Kaimai Ranges,
Yeah.
is all clear quartz crystal underneath. But if
Perfect.
you look at Zealandia, which was a massive landmass, and most of it is underwater now,
Mm.
we are actually New Zealand is actually the mountains that are left that
Ah,
are that didn't go underwater because they were so high. We're actually on the mountain range of
oh,
Zealandia, or one of them.
yeah.
And so all of this will be all clear quartz, the whole of New Zealand, all underneath. And even when you go up the Coromandel, you can get clear quartz out of the rivers, you can get gold out of the rivers.
Yeah.
It's just everywhere here. In every river, there's clear quartz and
Mm.
stuff.
Yeah. There
So
is. It's everywhere. I've seen crystal everywhere in New Zealand.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we're
I mean,
so we're sitting on a powerhouse of
yeah, totally.
that in it. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I brought back a stone from the crown chakra of the new earth, Mount Titiroa, it's part granite, part crystal, part tourmaline, part
awesome.
obsidian, I think. It's like a full mixture of this kind of granite that I asked if I could take it because it's been my anchor in my ceremonies, and I
Yeah,
do all of my work with it ever since,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I have given little bits and pieces to people. Um, over time, that to seed it out into different places as well.
yeah.
And
Fantastic.
yeah, it's
Mm.
it's quite beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what unfolds because, like I said at the beginning, we know that we're rising up and all of the old systems are falling and fading away. This is why, like the medical system is not working, the government systems aren't really working for the people, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But we are all rising, and that is just falling away. And these new systems, like there's been free energy and other stuff that has already existed, but it's been
Mm,
kept dumbed down
yeah.
purely because of finance, money. Money
Oh
has
yeah,
ruled everything. But
totally.
that's going.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Everything is dismantling, and
Yeah,
it's so funny because this whole paradigm was set up in such a disempowering place for us. And
yeah,
even in spiritual circles, it's like, oh, we're these terrible lowly beings that need to kind of do this and this to write the karma to get to, this place. And it's just a story, and
yeah.
it's
It
just
is.
not
It is.
true.
Yeah,
And
it's
we
right.
actually are these incredibly powerful beings, to take it back to what you brought in the very beginning of this conversation. And
Yeah,
we are just remembering who we are. There is
yeah,
nothing we need to do here. And we might be playing out patterns that,
yeah,
we might require some different kinds of transformation, transfiguration, recalibration, any of that. But it's really, really important to know that we are whole, and we are actually in the true original blueprint. If we
yeah,
might just have some self-created stuff over the top, or stuff we've taken on from society or
yeah,
parents or whatever it is, but it's to really have that knowing
yeah,
that that's just part of this process of being a human on this planet right now, and it
yeah,
actually doesn't really, it doesn't need to impact us in the way that we have. And when we bring that spark of consciousness in and really truly remember who we are,
yeah.
and that none of that is actually true,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
we start to, it just falls away so effortlessly.
it
We're not
does.
we're not in these places of resistance or these cycles and loops that we're constantly playing out, this behavior that we've been trying to get rid of forever or whatever.
Yeah,
It's all of that stuff just actually starts to cease to exist, because you can quantum leap, especially using the heart technology. You can
totally.
quantum leap your state of being and your timelines into something else
Yeah,
immediately. I mean, it's just like, why wouldn't we be playing in that space rather than
yeah,
old paradigm of like
that's right.
endless healing journeys and righting the wrongs and I'm like, we
Oh,
can't have
honestly, I play in that space all the time. I mean, to the point where the other day I was driving somewhere and I realised I hadn't filled up the car with fuel, and I thought, oh my god, the lights flashing, and I don't know how long it had been empty. So, because I'd driven the day before, and I'm in between two towns, and I thought, now I could drive because I'm still driving. I could drive here and I could go into fear, which is your
yeah,
normal human stuff, and go, oh my god, I'm going to run out of fuel, blah blah
yeah,
blah. Or I can actually go to the other side and go, actually, that's not going to happen. I'm going to see myself get into the garage, and at the same time, I'm seeing fuel being pumped in as I go along
yeah,
into the fuel tank, and there's nothing to fear, and I'm going to make it fine. And I did, of course,
yeah,
because
yeah,
that's the one that I took on,
yeah,
rather than the, oh, I'm gonna run out. And I do
totally.
it all the time because I sort of run late quite a lot. So
Yeah,
I go, okay, right, we're going to slow down time. Time
yeah,
is a human construct. If anyone listening, it's made by humans.
yeah,
So I'm going to slow down time. So I'm meant to be meeting my friend at such and such a time. I know that on the human side, I'm running well late. So this
yeah.
is what I do. I go, right, okay, I'm actually going to get there on time. I'm going to
Mm,
fly through time in my
mhm,
car,
yeah,
and I'm going to get there on
totally.
time. Every time I do it, I
Yeah.
get there dead on time. And I
I think
do
that's
it
part of
past
being a
spaces.
multidimensional human.
Yeah,
It's playing with
yeah,
these constructs that aren't really truly linear and just
yeah,
having a crack at it, and
yeah,
and being playful with it. I always
yeah.
remember Celindra King, who, she was so hilarious, and that she used to drive like an absolute bat out of hell. Like, she would go great guns. And she used to, before she hopped in the car, she go, I make this car and myself invisible to all highway patrolmen, speed cameras,
Yes, I've done that. I've done.
police cars, blah blah. And she'd go through the whole list, and then she'd just go, and she'd just, and I'd be like driving behind her, and I'd be like, I can't go that fast, and she was hysterical. I was such a crack up because she was just
Yeah,
like, nah, I'm not playing in that paradigm.
yeah, yeah.
So
Honestly, it
hilarious.
works. It so works.
Yeah,
Everyone should
it
take
really
this
does.
on. It
Yeah,
really works.
yeah,
The thing that I found with it is though, you've got to 100% believe it.
yeah,
The
yeah.
moment you quiver on, oh, I'm not sure,
You get
that's it. It
doubt,
won't.
which is fear
Yeah,
kicking
you've
in.
got to
Breaks
100%
the
believe that
frequency.
it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
amazing.
Oh, well, this has been such a fun chat, Jenny.
It
I
has.
love all of this, yeah, this stuff, and I'm sure it's been really helpful to people in many ways. As we sort of come to completion, is there anything else that you feel called to share by, I don't know, beings that you work with, or anything really? Has anything come to mind?
Well, I just really to remind people to live from an open heart, because it's just amazing. And not only are when you live from an open heart are you actually beaming that out to all around you, you're actually filling your own cells with that energy. And so if you imagine your heart expanding out that love, but imagine that in each and every cell of your body, which is a molecule, and that is expanding out that unconditional love too, you'll actually give yourself some amazing healing. So
Mm.
just practice that. Go into meditation if you like, so you've got no outside distractions, and practice opening your heart and living from that space. Eventually, once you live from that space, it automatically connects to your higher consciousness anyway. So then you start getting stuff coming into your mind, which is all connected to the heart. So
Mm.
that's what I will leave you with. Practice,
Amazing.
practice.
I love it. Yeah. And it's so good because none of this needs to be like, you can sit there and do that in a few minutes, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm all about like bite size and weaving
Yeah.
it into our daily lives. Like we
Mm.
really have to be able to merge these kinds of, you know, and use our multi-dimensional abilities to hack this reality to make everything smoother and easier and more fun.
Yeah.
Less than,
Absolutely. It's
yeah.
fun. That's it. It's fun. Play with it.
Totally. I find it,
Yeah.
we're creative beings, you know. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Would you like to let everybody know where they can find you? And
Thank
yeah,
you.
and yeah, any offerings that you've got, maybe.
Thank you. I have actually got it's pinned on my Facebook page, which is if you look up Ginny Jones and in brackets it's Virginia Jones because that's my full name. Pinned to the top on the 10th of July. It is remote, so we don't connect via Zoom or anything. It's a remote, complete clearing, healing, and total energy rebalance, which I'm doing at 6 o'clock in the evening for anyone who's working. Hopefully, you finish work by then.
I
Have a
think
look
that it's
at
going to
that.
air after that. I think it's going to air in August. So what have you got in August?
Ah, yes. In
Oh, no,
August.
mid July or something. Yeah, it'll be
Okay.
towards the end of July. It will be. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I've forgotten that. I have got another one in August, which I will pin to the top of my page. So have a look. Can't remember the date right now, but there is another one. It's the same. It's a complete clearing, healing, and total rebalance. Um, on my Facebook page, which is Ginny Jones and Virginia Jones in brackets. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn. My website is ginnyjoneshealer.com if you have a look at that as well. And I just want to say, Joanne, it's been such a pleasure to converse with you. I think me and you are like soul sisters. We get
I
on
know.
really
It's
well, yeah.
so
And,
good, isn't it?
and yeah, and it's so important as well to have a sense of humor, when we're talking and stuff. So I
Totally.
bless you for what you're doing. Absolutely
Oh,
bless you.
thank you, and you too. And to everybody else out there, thank you for joining us. And if you have enjoyed this conversation, please share it with someone else and like and subscribe so that you can have more of these fantastic conversations and more amazing guests like my beautiful friend Ginny here. And so thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye for
Thank you.
now.